Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out, as always, to our producer today, Jacob. Hey, Jacob, how you doing?
Hey, Erica, doing so well today. How are you?
I'm good. Happy April.
Yes, happy April Fool's Day. I don't know about you, but I certainly have a history of April Fool's jokes between my parents and myself. I don't know, is that something that you've done before?
Yes, very much so. Actually, one time I was really in the hospital, and I had my roommate to call my mom, and she hung up on her and said, yeah, happy April Fools. And she had to call back like 3 times and was like, no, really.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I've done something similar to my parents, except I wasn't in the hospital and she was very upset with me. So
I actually just remembered my son I sent him a Snapchat. Since he's overseas, we try not to text too much. And he wrote back never. And I'm like, I don't know what I sent him because it was in Snapchat and it disappeared. And then just now I remembered, I said, happy April Fools. Your mama didn't raise any fool. And he replied never, but I didn't know what he was replying to until just now. So you helped me remember that. So I'm not sure what happened to March. I mean, I blinked and it was gone. And I feel partly that's because I was so unproductive the last 2 weeks. We've had horrible weather here in Wisconsin. It was rainy and miserable. We got a bunch of snow yesterday when we thought we were done with that, which I don't know why. Happens every year. We have our 4th fall spring and I get upset. But I think it's that feeling leads to other feelings. And I think that is something that I wanted to tie into today because the demands of work, family, and finances can at times really leaving us feeling overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, restless, even angry. And that leads to getting unhealthy habits like maybe overeating, overworking, and other addictions. That leaves really little to no time for self-care or reflection. And it's no wonder that we as a society often find ourselves merely existing and not living the life we wish to live. And I've said it before in other episodes, are you surviving or are you thriving? And that's some of the things that we're going to get into today with my guest, Dr. Monica Vermani. We will talk about a practical approach to healing our past, dealing with challenges in the present, building an authentic life, and creating lasting, deeper wellness. And I'm pleased to welcome to the show today, Dr. Monica Vermani, who is one of Canada's top clinical psychologists. She's also a public speaker, a teacher, author, and advocate in the field of mental health and wellness. In her private practice, she provides a multifaceted treatment approach in treating adolescents and adults suffering from trauma, abuse, mood, anxiety, substance addictions, and other related conditions and disorders, as well as a family and couples therapy through a dynamic range of techniques and evidence-based treatment modalities. Dr. Vermani is also the founder of Start Living Corporate Wellness, which offers organizations of all shapes and sizes a dynamic suite of psychoeducation, training, and support to keep employees engaged, supported, happy, and whole. Drawing from her 25 years of clinical practice, Dr. Vermani's latest book, A Deeper Wellness, you've got to get it, provides a roadmap and the tools to create a deep, authentic sense of well-being and wellness. So welcome so much, and I'm so pleased to have you with us today, Monica.
Thank you very much, Erica.
So today's episode is named How to Heal Your Past, deal with your present, and take control of your future. So tell us, what is one of the first steps you state, one of the first steps that you state is to put your problems on the table. What do you mean by that?
So the first step to treatment is awareness. And many of us are so caught up in the hustle bustle of day-to-day life, that rat race out there, that we become well adjusted to a sick society. We become so driven by people pleasing, putting others ahead of ourselves, work, responsibilities, poor self-care habits, not being able to do meal prep or take care of ourselves with exercise and, meditation, that we get so caught up in that hamster on the wheel, busy life, that the first step to treatment is awareness. And you have to pause and reflect for that. You have to take a moment to just pause and reflect and notice, do I really know what's going on here? And what are my symptoms really talking to me? All human behavior has a purpose. All symptoms have a purpose. Symptoms are constantly telling you something's off track. And it's important for us to pause and reflect and first have some awareness. Hey, this symptom's been lasting longer than it should. And so maybe I need to pay attention to it. What's going on in my life? Symptoms get louder and louder and louder and exacerbate until you deal with them. And so when they're smaller, it's a little bit easier for us to manage and change gears and change life. But when it gets louder, we might need more medical intervention, medication, and more crises intervention. So it's nice to nip things in the bud. And when I say putting problems on the table, that's something I do with all of my patients when they first start with me. People are nervous to come and make change. And so I always say, let's take a table with 3 legs. Put any problem on this table, and all of your problems manifest in life in 3 distinct ways. So when I say problems on the table, relationship issues, alcohol or substance issues, self-esteem issues, work struggles, people pleasing, relationship struggles, managing family issues as we become older, caregivers to our children or our parents, medical conditions, cancer, diabetes, whatever's going on in your life, you can put on this table. It will manifest and show up in 3 distinct ways. The first way it shows up in your life is physical. Physical meaning physiologicals, headaches, muscle aches, abdominal distress, constipation, diarrhea, heart palpitations, crying, sensitivity, irritability, angry outbursts, eating too much, eating too little, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, restlessness, fatigue, the list goes on, even panic attacks, a number of physical symptoms peaking and dropping. So anything that comes with your body. Then the second way things show up in your body and with problems is cognitions, meaning negative thoughts. As you're born 0 to 10, you're born in a household, and that household gives you a blueprint of how you want to see the world. Mom's a clean freak, cleaning's a value. Dad works a lot, work's a value. Dad drinks at the end of the day, that's how we cope with stress. Dynamics about men and women, relationships, love, affection, self-care. We learn a lot of values from our household. And then as you're growing, life is a series of experiences, but we judge our experiences as positive or negative. And so often whatever we judge as negative, we also personalize. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't handle it. I'm a failure. Nobody's going to be with me. I'm going to die alone. And the list goes on there too. So these are negative thoughts that are self-depreciating, hard on yourself, values about marriage, relationships, commitment, things like this. And so a lot of these are labels, but they're negative thoughts. Oftentimes they're holding you back somehow. And the third leg is behavioral, meaning lifestyle habits or behaviors that are not often adaptive, but they're maladaptive. They're unhealthy habits, overeating, undereating, oversleeping, undersleeping. Alcohol and drugs numb the physical symptoms and the negative thoughts a little bit, give you a break from it. So we do it there. Gambling, shopping, porn addictions, people pleasing, putting others ahead of yourself, not saying no, not asking for that raise, dropping out of school, not getting medical treatment or psychiatric treatment when you know you need it, angry outbursts, suppressing anger. And the list goes on there and there, staying in abusive relationships, not living our ideal life. And so the 3 of those things keep your problem standing in your life. And many times it's important for us to start pausing and reflecting to notice what's going on in my life, and then baby steps to start conquering them.
And I think that's really important for folks to realize, right? We have to have that self-awareness to be able to do that. So sometimes people are nervous for doing that. So what are some of the benefits of that, putting the problems on the table? for looking at it that? What would somebody get out of it if they're nervous? Because sometimes it's the reward and benefit aspect that gets people there.
So it's that awareness again, right? Once we have awareness on what's going on, really, then we can tackle it and deal with it. Many times, like I just finished overwhelming you guys with the 3 legs, you also have to realize those symptoms are all within us. And so you get overwhelmed living with it. When you see them distinctly separate, you can actually manage it.
Great. So can you give us an example of a problem and how we might put it through that 3-legged table process?
So today's world, during the pandemic, many of us have been using substances to take the edge off the stressful day we heal. So alcohol, drugs, things like this. And again, chronic excessive use will turn into a problem. And so people during the pandemic have admitted to me that they're drinking every day, or they find themselves not being able to sleep unless they use something as a sleep aid or alcohol or drugs. And the way it shows up is there's physical symptoms with chronic use of anything. You even eat chocolate every day, you're going to have a symptom there. And so when it comes down to it, there's physical symptoms. It could be, mind racing, and you could have hangovers, weight gain, you could have exhaustion, insomnia, because alcohol might numb you enough to fall asleep, but it doesn't keep you asleep. It's broken sleep. Negative thoughts could be, I can't let go of this, or I'm a bad person, or snapping at our family members because the alcohol's numbing, not necessarily letting you see really what's going on in your dynamics out there. And drinking might be, excessively making you a little lazy, watching more TV, not getting as active, not playing and engaging with your family members. And the third way it shows up is behaviorally, meaning, lifestyle habits. Like I mentioned, you're eating poorly with alcohol or drug use, munchies from weed. Many times we're eating poor foods, or we're drinking to a point where we're not eating properly, or we're sitting on the couch all day, we're not engaging with our loved ones, and maybe avoiding work at times because we have hangovers, or not being as good at concentration. So our problems in any area will manifest in those 3 ways. And it's important for us to deal with it.
So before we go to a break, just tell us real briefly, what do we do about our problems, and how do we know when our problems are a big deal?
So problems, like everybody has symptoms. And so we all are perfect and a work in progress. We all have symptoms. The key is this: when your symptoms hold you back from living your life successfully, the way you would like your life to be, this gap is your problems. And so again, where I am, where I want to be, this gap are your symptoms that are holding you back. And so identifying when it's a problem is when your symptoms are tending you to hold you back from successfully living work, social, intimacy, self-care, or spirituality. Spirituality is you connecting with yourself and enjoying your own company. Many times when we're alone, our mind races and we're quite hard on ourselves.
Yes. And I think this is all really great information and will really get us to that next segment that we're going to talk about. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about living a full, authentic life. Before we go, Monica, tell folks how they can reach you.
They can reach me on my website, www.drmonicavermani.com. And everything's there. You'll get individual therapy, the podcasts I do with articles, information about the new book, A Deeper Wellness, and corporate wellness as well.
Wonderful. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to see the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dr. Monica Vermani. Oh my goodness, having tongue-tied today. So during our last segment, we talked about putting our problems on the table. And really our intent for living, and I know where we're getting to this, we didn't quite get there quite yet, but we're meant to live fully, right? To be authentic to ourselves and to get excited about life, and not to really thrive and be the best that we can be for us. So when we're looking at that, Monica, what do you mean, or what is meant to live life fully and authentically? How do we begin to connect this ideal life?
Yeah, so that's a great question because, you know, as children, when we're born, we're quite connected to life. We're living in the moment. You know, kids say the truth. They're unconditionally loving. You know, they will hug kiss you, even if you don't kiss them back. And so there's this authentic being in front of us that's, you know, living their authentic life. They do eat, sleep, you know, take a poop. They do whatever they can to just live life fully in the moment, and they're functioning well. And then as we're growing, we start like holding on to concepts or thoughts of how we think life needs to be. And we sometimes put external ahead of ourselves internally. So we start people pleasing, we start, you know, working a little harder, we start competing, we start doing things that are taking us away from what we really want to try to people please or fit in with society. And so when I talk about our ideal life, we all have hopes and dreams. And we also have a vision, like the future is uncertainty. It hasn't happened yet. So you can imagine whatever you want to bring to yourself. But oftentimes we don't imagine our best case scenarios. We sometimes get worried about things going wrong in life. And so authentic life is where I want you to imagine your best case scenario of a life and understand, you know, what does my ideal life look like? And it's nothing spectacular, I find. I do this with my patients in the first session. I always say, if I had a magic wand, I can take away all your problems. Where would you like life to be? Work, social, intimacy, finances, self-care, spirituality. Spirituality, again, you connecting to your spirit, you enjoying your own company. Many times when we're alone with ourselves, our mind races and we're hard on ourselves, and we don't always like our own company. And so to me, an authentic being is where you're living fully in those areas and you're actually enjoying your own company too, when you have dead air time and you're just on your own. So that exercise is a really nice way for many people to just reflect, yeah, you know, where would I like my ideal life in those areas? And what would life look like if I could make it a little healthier?
Yeah, that clicking of the ruby slippers, right? And I love how you said it, the exercise, waving the magic wand, because I mean, I don't know how many times I could say, where are my shovel fairies? Where are my, you know, cleaning fairies? So is this something that we could maybe give the tools to our listeners right now that we could do this exercise?
100%. Audience members, grab a sheet of paper and simply, you know, write down the categories of work, social, intimacy, finances, self-care, meaning health, exercise, food, and then spirituality. And let's, you know, again, look at, if I could imagine my ideal life, you know, if I took away all your problems and symptoms, where would your ideal life be? Let's look at then where you are to where you want to be. The gap are always your symptoms. And that's why it's so important to address them. We're not living our authentic, highest and best version of ourselves because our symptoms hold us back. Sometimes symptoms we don't recognize as a problem because we self-medicate. Take an Advil here or painkiller. We take, you know, a glass of wine at the end of the day. Instead of self-medicating, it's important to not take the edge off life, but pause and reflect and say, how do I treat life to be better so I don't need something to take the edge off life?
Love that. So audience, grab that piece of paper if you haven't already. We're going to repeat the list for you so that you know, and then you can do this on your time. And really, as Monica said, make sure that you are looking at your ideal life, not the, but what if I fail? What if I succeed? Just your ideal life. And grab that sheet of paper. And Monica, could you repeat those categories again?
Work or school, if you're in school, social, intimacy, self-care, finances, and spirituality. And under social, you can put your family there too.
Wonderful. So then what? So we've done this list, we've put this list down. What do we do next?
So once you have the awareness of, oh my gosh, you know what? This is where I am. This is where I want to be. Now you can take proactive steps, actionable steps to bridge the gap and get to a place of health. But the first step again is awareness. How far am I from where I want to be? And many times, one reason why people don't do these exercises is it feels overwhelming to look at how far we are from where we want to be. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. It's not about being hard on ourselves. That's the one thing I think we're lacking in today's times is compassion for ourselves. We're very compassionate to others sometimes, but we're not great to ourselves. It's nice for you to pause and reflect and have compassion that yes, change is hard, but you know what? Itching our way there and just getting her there inch by inch is all that matters. It's important for us to just start taking baby steps towards health.
And I think that's where people get bogged down and they get overwhelmed because they're like, how do I get from A to Z? Or that the little saying that goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? You know, which is, if you think about it, is kind of gross, but
Yeah,
but
no.
it is. You just take that one little step, and one step is one step closer. So you've done this, but I sound like a child. And then what? But and then what happens? You know, how does this really start to move you in the right direction?
It's good for us to recognize that it is an individual journey. Like each of us are really responsible for ourselves, and we are VIPs, very important person, right? People. And so you're born alone, you take your first breath into the world alone, and you take your last breath out of the world alone. It is an individual journey amongst society, amongst families, amongst work. And so it's nice for us all to pay attention that am I putting myself first? You know, I always have this quote, don't give from your well, give from your overflow. It's important sometimes to recognize, you know, am I taking care of me to get closer to a better version of me? Because as you're in a better version of you, you spill over onto others in positivity versus when you're in pain, spilling over onto others in negativity. So it is important for you to work on yourself, not only for you, for the loved ones around you. And so, you know, the incremental steps is one, recognizing symptoms, and then pick one, just one, and start taking baby steps towards what would this look like healthy. Now, I mentioned it's an individual journey amongst a collective. Don't do it alone. You have people you can bring in for accountability buddies, get a trainer, get, you know, your partner to be on board, and you both start cooking healthier, or you both start going for that walk every day, or you spend, you know, take the stairs instead of the escalator, like little baby steps towards growth, whether it's physical health or mental health is important for us.
I think that is what people forget. You don't have to start big. Your goals and dreams and ideal life may be big, but it doesn't mean that you're going to go from 0 to 120 miles an hour. You have to look at, like you said, where the gaps are, right?
And we're hard on ourselves, and we don't even realize that we hold ourselves to such a high standard. We don't even hold other people to that. And you got to question sometimes, is that one of my symptoms? Is that one of my negative thoughts, that I have to be perfect, that I have to be a certain way, or I'm never going to get there? Like if we have this laissez-faire, like I'm never going to get there, hopeless attitude, we also stay stuck. We end up self-sabotaging.
So once they have some of these awareness and you've identified them, can you give us a sense of what these incremental steps might be that one might take as we're going through?
So the incremental steps like really depends on the problems you have in life, right? And sometimes the incremental steps we can do ourselves, you know, and it's important for us to recognize that, yes, once I see, okay, this is who I am, this is where I want to be, maybe I need to take baby steps to get here to a better version of me. But other times we have to go beyond ourselves. You do the best you can with what you know. And many times we don't know enough sometimes to make the changes we need to actually get to the results of where we want to be in our highest and best version of our lives. And each of you out there deserve to be in your highest and best version of lives. And so, you know, reaching out beyond yourself is where you can bring in resources. Go talk to your family doctor if the symptoms are really loud. Go talk to a naturopath, a medical professional, a psychologist for coaching, or, you know, guidance on how to acquire skills to manage anxiety or stress or depression better, or how to intervene with family members that might have alcohol, drugs, or abuse going on. It's important for us to start realizing that we can only do so much change by ourselves. We sometimes need to go outside of ourselves to get the tools to be a better version of me. And many times we're also hard on ourselves with that. You know, you might be in grade 3 wondering, you know, am I doing the best I can with what I have? But when you're in grade 5, you know more now. But many times we knock ourselves here saying, why didn't I know more here? Well, there's this 2-year gap of growth give yourself credit that when you make changes or when you make choices, you do the best you can with what you know. And if you don't know enough, go outside of yourself to get more tools.
Absolutely. So you mentioned before, so before we take a quick break, you had mentioned that sometimes we stray. And, you know, how is it that we stray so far away from our authentic selves and lose sight of who we want to be?
So when you're born, like I mentioned, you're in your authentic highest self. You're as a kid, eat, sleep, take a poop. That's what you're doing. And you focus on living in the moment. And you clearly are just doing what you want to do in the moment. But then as we're growing, we go from our true selves to an expected self version of us. And so then we start placing all these expectations on ourselves to be a good partner, a good child, a good wife, a good student, you know, compete. And we start losing what we want to do truly and becoming what people expect of us. And sometimes that's my job, working with mood and anxiety. Sometimes mood and anxiety symptoms show up when you are well adjusted to a sick society where everything else is more important, but your truth, but what you really want. And being in a place where, again, you're knocking off that list of being everybody's everything, you empty your bucket and you don't feel authentically connected to yourself anymore. You feel like that rat race person, hamster on the wheel, putting others ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
And
that
so
is
it's
so
important for us
important.
to realize, am I doing what I really want? Am I living the life I want or what people expect of me?
And that is a big for today's society. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about letting go of what no longer serves us. Before we go, Monica, tell folks again how they can reach you.
You can reach me on my website, www.drmonicavermani.com.
Wonderful. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dr. Monica Vermani. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Eric.
So we've been talking about laying our problems on the table and living an authentic and full life. But now let's get into letting that bleep go, right? Because that is sometimes what hold us back. That's maybe one of our problems, right? We're not being our true selves. And so I'd love to hear your input on what are some of the main things that we hold on to that really, truly no longer serve us.
Negative thoughts. And so plain and simple, it's always your thoughts that lead to your moods and your physical symptoms, and then your negative, unhealthy habits and behaviors. But it always starts with a thought, whether the thought is conscious or unconscious. Our thoughts can have a firm hold on us. And many times we're not bothered by the positive thoughts. We're bothered by the negative thoughts, the scrutinizing thoughts, the self-dislike, being hard on ourselves, and the thoughts that hold us back from attempting or trying to live our highest and best.
Those limiting beliefs, they knock us down every time.
Mm-hmm. And their core beliefs, sometimes they come from your upbringing. And so core beliefs, meaning sometimes we have under the age of 10, belief systems that we acquire through modeled behavior from our parents, and we hold on to them like they're standards in life that we need to live by. But as you're older and you become your own adult and your own person, it's important to start questioning, what thoughts have I taken from my childhood that don't serve me and my life in today's times, but they did maybe serve me in the childhood version or serve my parents well? And look at, what do I hold on to that still helps me thrive and grow? And what thoughts do I need to dispel, reframe, and reconceptualize to have a better version of thinking where I manifest the life I want to live?
Yes. So beyond our core beliefs, what else is there that we might need to let go of?
So core beliefs, are again, those ones that come with an emotional tie where, like, I know I'm smart, but I feel like I'm not smart. And so those are thoughts that come with some sort of an emotional stickiness where you're like, I know this about me, but I feel this way all the time. I know I'm not a failure when I look at my resume, but then I feel like I'm always a failure. It's those thoughts that come with some sort of an emotional tie. The other types of thoughts we have are the ones that monkey brain jumps around with all day long. They're called automatic thoughts. There's positive and negative automatic thoughts. What happens is usually the positive ones come and flop and the negative ones stick, and we ruminate sometimes. We think about them over and over and over and over, and they build up tension in your body and also make you then behave in a way that's sometimes holding you back from living life a certain way. But again, these are thoughts that are self-scrutiny, or thoughts about how the world runs, how relationships need to be, what love looks like. Some of it is modeled behavior that we've seen and we just acquire as a map in our head that this is the way it is. And other thoughts are things that we're learning from people in our society, our culture, our upbringing, or even traumas or difficult experiences that happen, where then you hold on to thoughts of personalizing those traumas, like a breakup, and thinking nobody's going to want to be with me. And so it was a hurtful experience that you took a thought that's not true, but you personalized something hurtful.
Yes. So you mentioned, PTSD or PTSS. What about people who have suffered through trauma and are struggling with that?
So
How do we
again,
get them?
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's where you or somebody close to you is in a near-death, life-threatening situation. And once you've had a trauma, daily triggers often take you back to that event through flashbacks or nightmares and triggers by sights or sounds or smells. And so when we have difficult experiences, like traumas can be a number of different magnitudes. There's natural disasters, there's rapes, there's traumas of like abuse. Some people have one trauma, a car accident, and their flashbacks and nightmares take them back there. And other people have accumulated trauma where you've gone through years of abuse or years of difficulties showing up in your life, sudden job loss, sudden death, things like this. And you have day-to-day triggers that take you to multiple traumas. The key is this: those traumas many times leave us feeling helpless and hopeless. And when we have difficult experiencing or suffering in life, we personalize it often. I'm not good enough. I can't handle it. What if it happens again? Maybe my life is always going to be damaged, or I'm damaged. And so these are thoughts about yourself, others. And, we all have something called schemas. Schemas are maps in our head of information we acquire from birth and as we grow up. So the map initially is tainted by our parents teaching us things, but then as we go to school, we meet different students, we have different interactions, we revise and change this map. With a trauma, the map suddenly changes, where now there's more fear, anxiety, and self-doubt. Fear is anxiety, and anxiety is self-doubt, not knowing if you can handle the next bad thing that shows up in your life. And with traumas, you're always worried, startle response of fight, flight, or freeze. When is the next bad thing going to happen? Because I didn't expect this one and it showed up. And now there's a fear of just coasting in life, wondering when the next bad thing is going to happen because something did happen. But we always have to remember, an isolated event is not a never-ending pattern. And we have to sometimes look at our life accurately. Everything is possible. You want to start exploring the probability of bad things happening.
Right. You have to, I don't want to say be realistic, because when you're in that stage, it's not realistic. Right. Mm-hmm. So briefly, are there other elements in play in our daily lives that we need to examine? Those things that may no longer serve us, but we're still doing.
So again, unhealthy habits, oftentimes we continue to do, even though we know they're not right. Each and every one of us out there have probably gone back and fallen off the wagon with, alcohol or drugs or food, or like, I'm not going to eat sugar today. And then at the end of the day, we eat sugar. We all kind of have these moments of falling back to comfort habits, comfort foods, alcohol, drugs, avoidance, denial, procrastination. And so, these are habits we choose, everything we choose. We choose avoidance. We choose to face things. We choose to self-soothe. We choose to numb. We choose to oversleep. We choose to wake up and get proactive and exercise. It is important for you to recognize that you are making choices, even if they're unhealthy ones. The unhealthy ones are like a muscle. The more I exercise it, it feels strong. So it takes a little bit of compassion with yourself again to start exercising a healthy muscle for this one to grow, for us to realize that once my healthy habits have grown, they will overtake a pattern that these unhealthy habits have taken. But we do have to have compassion. Things take time, and we tend to want to have results right away when we've acquired unhealthy habits over time. It is important for us to learn how to communicate well to ourselves and others. When we're going through a hard time, take accountability. Because when you're in pain, you're spilling over onto others. Realize that other people are being affected by your unhealthy habits as well. And it's nice for us to communicate well to ourselves, which is that table with 3 legs. Recognize your symptoms, stop denying it, stop pushing it aside, stop taking a pill to self-medicate, and start seeing that maybe there's problems I need to address, not only for my health, but for the circle around me that I spill over onto, my family, my friends, my community, my workplaces.
Yeah, because we are all interconnected when it comes down to it. And I think that those are great points on, we somehow have lost this connection because we're not willing or not able to have that self-awareness. If we're not willing to go deep and find out, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? Sitting with those uncomfortable feelings, because that's why some people don't like to be alone, because then I think, and then I recognize that there's these issues. But that in itself is a choice, right? You are deciding not to correct those behaviors or have that self-awareness so you can get over those emotions, that you can move to the next step. And I know we've got to get to a break, but I just want to, one last thing, are there other areas of your lives where we have things that we need to consider letting go of? One last thing, what would those be?
We have to start recognizing honestly what's going on within us. We tend to live a very blanket life sometimes, and we don't look at what's underneath. And so anger, as an example, we all have anger. Anger turned inwards can be depression. Anger outwards we know is like aggression. And so it's important for us to start recognizing what's beneath the blanket of emotions, whether it's happiness, what's really making me happy, or it's anger, what's really making me angry. Am I feeling angry because I have a loss of control, because I'm feeling lonely, I'm bored, I'm frustrated, I'm feeling unfulfilled, I'm feeling not appreciated, a loss of worthiness, or feeling incapable or incompetent. Start communicating honesty with yourself to really look at blanket emotions that we throw around every day and look at what's really underneath it. What is really bothering me? Because anger for everybody is different. And at different phases of our life, we have different insecurities that come up. It's important for us to recognize that we need to let go of whatever does not serve our highest and best. And that means starting to recognize, what am I holding on to day that doesn't serve me? Whenever you go through suffering or a difficult time, it gets lodged in your nervous system, and then day-to-day things keep triggering it. Start addressing this stuff so that you can alleviate symptoms, but you can also be in a place of not holding on to negative thoughts that are really not true, but cognitive distortions, distorted ways of seeing reality.
It's great information. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will end today's episode with really talking about living the life we truly want and becoming the highest and best versions of ourselves. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Dr. Monica Vermani. Before we wrap up today's episode, tell listeners how they can reach you.
You can reach me on my website, www.drmonicavermani.com.
And that's where you can find your latest book?
Find my latest book there, A Deeper Wellness, right here. And you can also inquire about individual therapy, group therapy, corporate wellness, and I have an online platform for self-help on there too, with a bunch of resources.
Wonderful. So you definitely want to check that out. So we've been talking about living as our highest and best selves. But where does somebody begin with that?
Yeah, it's hard again. And as I mentioned in the exercise earlier, the first step is awareness. And so let's bring some awareness by doing those exercises of where am I, where do I want to be, and then really paying attention to the steps in between that I need to take to get to the life I want to have that is authentic. And many of us don't strive for everything we want, but we do deserve it all. So, really imagine your ideal version of your life. Let's try to manifest your highest and best version of your life, because why not? You deserve it all. Just the deserving sometimes is a negative thought of, I don't deserve this. And why not? That's just a concept. You can reframe, reconceptualize, like we talked about, and move forward, bringing a new thought that helps me. I am capable, I am worthy, I am able, and I deserve my highest and best version of life.
And I think, like you said, that is the first step, is believing you deserve that best life that you, not somebody else imagines, but you imagine.
And the key you just said is believing. Believing is a thought. So recognize how powerful our thoughts are. We are steering our boat. And so make sure you're steering it in the direction of positivity, growth, being your highest and best, and being able to manage life versus feel dictated and controlled by life.
So how can we start?
So it's important for you to recognize, again, the two reasons why we get stressed. So stress is when your activity level surpasses your energy level. And so this is, activity, and this is energy. Activity is physical. We jump around, running around, doing all the roles that we play in life, but it's also mental, the mental activity. And this is energy. So you have two options: bring down activity, but we can't always do that. We got to run around. We got to still work. We got to take care of our family members and get things done. So the other option is to bring up energy levels. It is important for us to start recognizing, am I using my energy levels efficiently? And am I replenishing them? 4 sources of energy out there: the food we eat. Am I eating food to lift me, give me energy so that I can get the life I want? Or am I eating foods that deplete me and put me in a place of feeling like lethargic and bloated and just not wanting to get up to do anything? Am I eating foods that stimulate me, like coffee and sugar, to get energy burst, but then I crash later with sadness or sleeping or fatigue? Am I using depressants like weed or alcohol that is a depressant that pulls me down? It's important to look at what we put in our body on a food level. Am I maintaining a healthy level of energy throughout the day? Second one is sleep. Sleep is the other thing that helps us bring up our energy levels. Am I getting enough? With today's wonderful Netflix series, we're all on there watching the next episode. And it's important for us to recognize, I need to cut off things and put boundaries so that I get a good quality of sleep. All day long, your body is carrying you through life. You need to respect your body and your mind to have enough sleep to replenish and repair the muscles and the wear and tear you go through. Am I sleeping enough? And if I have problems with sleep, am I addressing it? Go to a sleep clinic or go to your family doctor. Address if you can't sleep well, or if you have broken sleep, or if you have a hard time falling asleep. It might be anxiety and you're thinking about things. What can I do? Maybe I need to see a psychologist for tools on how to shut down my brain and allow myself to sleep, or use apps where there's guided meditation to get me away from thinking about my next day and be in the here and now. And making sleep good. There's 8 hours work, 8 hours play, and 8 hours sleep. That's your ideal day. The 8 hours sleep, it's 1/3 of your day, guys. Make sure it's nice bed sheets. Make sure it's comfortable. It's good for your back. You feel good in bed because you're spending 1/3 of your day there. And the third one is exercise and breathing. Whenever we focus on exercise or breathing, you go from a place of breathing, short and shallow breaths, which again, as a baby, we breathe from our bellies. But as we get older, we do short and shallow breaths as we run around, racing around, accomplishing things. And so these short and shallow breaths, can we bring attention by meditation or breathing? Breathing exercises focus on you getting a full belly breath in. And sometimes when you do cardio, one reason why you feel great is your breathing patterns change. And then your whole body gets the oxygen to feel a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more in control. Mind clears up things because you were focused on your breath and the postures. And the fourth one is a calm state of mind, dealing with things that we sometimes push aside. Are you looking at dealing with things to bring you to a calm state of mind, paying your taxes on time, getting the help you need if you don't know what to do to get better? Are we doing things proactively to be in a place of a calm state of mind, dealing with marital problems or family issues, looking for the help and getting resources on board if you don't know the answers, or taking time every day to go inwards and say, okay, what's the next thing I'm going to commit to be a higher, better version of me?
That is, I don't want to say basic, but it's so basic. It's so simple. Everybody can really do it. We just need to commit to doing those things.
Mhm.
So how do we then really commit and really move forward?
Mhm. So choice, again, is always in our hands, right? And you need to all be honest with yourself. Why do I hold myself in a standard where I put myself last on the list? Why do I have a tendency to take myself for granted? What is the self-harm behavior of giving up over and over instead of feeling, self-esteem and worthy for betterment, for a better life? It's important for you to start recognizing, am I choosing health every day? Many of us get so focused on physical health, going to the gym, this and that, but our mental health is just as important. You need to start paying attention to yourself and feeling worthy of you living a life in your ultimate best, physically, mentally, as well as living the life that you wake up looking forward to. Some people get anxiety in the morning because they wake up and they're not looking forward to their day. Are you doing 3 to 5 things every day that just bring you joy? I do. It's important for you to realize, if I live each day as if it's my last, because again, death is uncertainty. We don't know when and how we're going to die. So why don't we, live each day as if it's my last? Are you saying I love you to the people that you care about? Are you having a treat every day? Are you allowing yourself to, do little things that bring you joy? A bubble bath, a cupcake, talking to a friend that makes you laugh, watching a show, dancing in the kitchen to salsa music as you cook. Are we doing little things that just perk up the day and be able to really be grateful for the good going on in our life versus the negative and the bad?
It's that
And so
gratitude.
choosing
Yeah.
good over the bad and implementing good little things that bring you joy to lift you, so that you realize that you don't get caught up in those anxious loops or just focusing on the negative. You pull yourself out to see the good over the bad. Life is always about replacing one thought with the other, replacing the negative with a positive thought that helps you lift and grow and change for your own betterment. Making time for little things to bring you joy. Start off by that.
So we only have about 2 minutes left. So I want to talk just real briefly about some of the supports and things we can learn that can help us live our best lives. Give us like 3 of the top. I mean, I know that's hard because there's so many that we can do, but just because we only have a couple minutes left on what would that be?
So I would say stop existing, start living. And that means realize when you're on that hamster on the wheel and each day feels like Groundhog Day, you do the same stuff every day. It is important for you to start recognizing also, don't give from your well, give from your overflow. Take care of you before you take care of others. They say it on the plane, put the mask on you before others. Start learning to do that. It's not about people pleasing. It's about you being your own VIP. As you take care of you, the ripple effect around you is taking care of others better, is making your work smarter, is making you be a better parent, family member, loved one, or friend. And recognize, again, you matter. Plain and simple, you matter in the equation of your life. Let's take a pause and reflect. Use, resources and tools out there just to bring you to a deeper wellness. Am I just on a surface level trying to go to a spa day and do this and that and, have a beer at the end of the day to take the edge off life? Or am I truly on a deeper level changing my life so that I can sustain wellness, health, happiness, and truly like the life I'm living versus just existing in it?
Thank you again, Dr. Monica Vermani, for being with us today. I really appreciate all your insights. Go to her website. The link's right there within the show. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here.
And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or you want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you again for tuning in. Have an amazing day. And I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you've missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.